Hello and welcome back to another Microsoft Flight Sim 2024 video. In this video, we're going to do a how do you start up the iFly 737 MAX. Now, before we begin, there are two tools you're going to need to use that I am showcasing in this video. The first is Briefing Panel, which can be found at flightsim.to. The other is you need to have a SimBrief profile set up. And that is ideal for most airliners within flight simming, period, whether on X-Plane or if you're on Microsoft Flight Sim. Once you have those two things going, come on back to the channel and continue in this video. So let's jump into the plane itself. Here we are in the iFly 737 MAX. It is a fantastic plane, one of my favorite planes in the sim, and once it was brought over to 2024, it's really completed my collection of planes in the sim, barring a couple other ones I'm still looking forward to, but this was one from 2020 that I was really hoping to come over to 2024. But enough with that, we're here to learn some stuff. So the first thing I like to do to get this plane started is go over here to the right side, and you're gonna look at the EFB and click the power button. Once you click that power button, it takes a couple of seconds, go on here to System page, Sim menu, click on Ground Support, and click on Electric. Set that, and this is gonna bring the GPU so it's connected. The next step is go on top here and turn on the battery. You can see the ground power is available. We're going to click that down, and that means now we have ground power within the aircraft. The next thing I have to do is go up here to the top and do the navs. Now what I'm showing you here in the steps are not 100% 2T how you're supposed to do it in IRL. This is what I like to do just in the sim. Next I do the window probe heats, and then we're going to go ahead and set the lights. Again, this is something I just like to do now. Some people don't do this right away, but I do. You can go ahead and do your altitude now. That's 330. Armed emergency exit lights. Seatbelt signs are on. And one pump fuel on. I'm going to go ahead and get the APU firing up. That APU takes a little bit to get fired up, so while we're waiting for that, let's go over here to the EFB. I'm going to click on Menu and go to Performance and Payload, and then Weights and Balances. Now this is what I said earlier, you do need to have a program called Briefing Panel. You don't need to have this, but I do highly recommend it because it brings all the information right here on the side. We can go to Payload and scroll on down. We can see we have 122 passengers on today's flight. We go to Cargo, and Cargo says we have 5368, so we're just going to round this to what we think is going to be best, and I'm going to say let's go 265. That'd be pretty close. 2650. 2650. That'll get us pretty darn close to our total cargo weight there. And we can look here at the zero fuel weight, 128 and 128.5, 128.4. So pretty darn close. Go to fuel, and here we're going to put in our total fuel. So block fuel is 11. 358. The next thing we need to do is taxi out fuel and planned fuel. Now that information isn't right here, unfortunately, but if you go to raw data and you scroll just a little bit, you're going to see right here, trip is going to be 4288. So trip, 4288. And then we scroll down just a little bit more, we're going to see taxi, 420. It seems to always be about 420. So we're going to put in 420. Once you have that all set in there, you hit the bottom button, you hit the next button, and you hit complete. And this is going to send over the weights to the aircraft. Now we can go on down to the bottom here, and we click on FMS, position in it. We're going to go next page, grab the GPS left, go back a page, drop it into position. Okay, now route, request a flight plan. This one takes a couple seconds. While we're waiting for that, we're going to also need to go back to payload. We're going to need the zero fuel weight here in a second. And now that that's loaded into the system, we click on load. And this takes a few more seconds to come on into the system as well. We can see that's all ready to go. We're expecting a runway departure today of 15 left. And we are going to be United 2105. So 2109, 09. Pop that in there. We're going to activate and execute. Performance in it, click on that button. Now we need that zero fuel weight. So our zero fuel weight, 128.5. We had 128.4 actually in the plane, so 128 and a 4. Our reserves, we click on reserves here, so 2. Beautiful. Cruising altitude 330, that's perfect. Our cruise wind, we go to weather. Average wind is what I like to use. I don't know if you're supposed to use top of climb or if you use average. I just use average, so 2814. Pop that in there. And our indicated air temperature is 12. Execute. Alright, so N1. We can get this information over here on the sky. So next we can click on copy the information. So it brings in all of our weather data that we just entered in. We can click on flap config and we go to flaps 5, AC on, and anti-ice is off for this flight. Calculate that. We have a CG of 21.4. We have our D takeoff 1, or sorry, T takeoff is just 0. So 53.21.4. So 53 here. Next, flaps are 5. CGs are 21.4. Beautiful. That's set in there. Now we go and hit our V speeds. Once you have that going, next we can go to our departure. It automatically selected it because we put in 15 left for that departure. We're expecting the MUGS departure on this flight. So I can get that information from summary down here, MUGS 4. So via the MUGS 4 departure. Transition is gusty. And execute that. Our arrival into New Orleans today is arrival. We're expecting runway 11, so ILS 11. And add-ons, add-on 1, and via the add-on transition. Execute. And there we go. We now have that pretty much ready to go. We can close out that for now. Next step, we're going to go up top here, and we can see the APU is ready to fire up, so we click on those buttons. APU is going good. We can click on our yaw damper now. That is good. I like to do the hydraulic pumps next, and then is the important part of disconnecting over here on the side. Menu, system page, disconnecting the electric. Set that. Alright, that's been disconnected. We can now get our pushback engine starting up. For engine startup, we're going to go ahead and switch this to on. Okay. And we're going to do that here in just a second. So I'm going to get ATC clearance from George Bush International. I'm using Beyond ATC for this step. So 128 and a 1. Houston clearance, hello from United 2109. We're ready for IFR clearance to Armstrong, New Orleans. Give that a couple seconds.
United 2109, Houston clearance cleared to Armstrong, New Orleans Airport. MUGS for departure, gusty transition, then is filed. Climb via side departure frequency 127.125, squawk 205 tree.
Okay, and I have auto response on.
Cleared to Armstrong, New Orleans Airport. MUGS for departure, gusty transition, then is filed. Climb via SID. Departure frequency 127.125, squawk 2053. United 2109.
United 2109.
Alright, 15 left is our departure. Beautiful, all looking grand there. And next we can go and get a pushback toolbar, was what I like to use. And sometimes it doesn't pop up the first time, so we're going to click on it again. Go ahead and pre-plan our pushback and go to Houston ground. Houston ground, United 2109, ready for pushback and engine start. Alright, and we're going to face this direction likely, which would be south. Or I guess west. Enter that one. Alright, so we have clearance for pushback engine start. Release this parking brakes, and let's go and get that pushback going. Pushback is commencing up here at the top. Let's get our fuel pumps going. APU bleed is on. Ground power. And to start number 2 of the engines. And we're going to see right on down here at the bottom, engine number 2 is rolling on up. Once this gets to about 18, you're going to see motoring pop up. When motoring disappears, we're going to introduce fuel. And then we're going to rinse and repeat the steps over on engine number 1. Let's get that clock going as well. I like to do the flight director at this point as well. And this part could take about 30 seconds or so once you get up to the motoring section. Once it gets up to 24, it's going to start rolling. So there we go. Introduce that fuel. All right, you know engine number 2 is ready to, or sorry, engine number 1 is ready to go when the click happens. You're going to see this go from ground to off. That means you can go ahead and do engine number 1. But again, you wait until you hear that click to go on over here from ground to off. There's that click. We like to go over here to ground and start engine 1. While that's going up, and we go to Gen 2 for engine 2. It's going to turn on the generator, so we're no longer on the APU for engine number 2. And now engine number 1 is rotating on up. So while engine number 1 is going up, we go over here to RTO for the brakes, and we go to set our flaps down to 5. So we can see here it's going to rotate all the way up to 5. And again, we're watching that motoring happen here. Once it gets up to about 24 is when we're going to go ahead and introduce that fuel. There we go, introduce fuel. Alright, fuel is coming on board engine number 1. We're going to bring this over to Terra. And now engine number 2 is rolling. And now we can go and get our taxi clearance and taxi on out here out of Houston. Or sorry, out of, yeah, we're out of Houston. Houston ground, hello from United 2109. We're ready for taxiing to the active. Now, just like engine number 2, we're looking to see that flick over.
United 2109, runway 15, left taxi via Romeo Bravo.
That flicked on over, so we're going to switch this over to both. Gen 1 is on, APU is off, APU bleed is off, packs left and right are on, so the passengers in the back get some air. It's very kind of important. Taxi lights on, and we are officially now ready to roll here out of Houston. Thanks for watching this video. We'll see you for the next one. Take care.